Welcome to the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I am joined as always by my cousin Landon.
Good day again. Agreed. Good evening, really.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, it could be evening. Who knows what time it is when you're listening or watching this
Could
old
be any time.
show. All right. Well, this week we are talking about an important era in history. The years between 1989 and 1999 are known as the Disney Renaissance. It's a period of time when Walt Disney Animation Studios experienced an incredible resurgence of popularity after a bit of a dark period. Throughout the late 1970s and early 80s, Disney's animated films took a bit of a downturn, both critically and financially. In fact, 1985's The Black Cauldron, an underrated classic in my opinion, very nearly ended the studio. While The Great Mouse Detective underperformed after going head to head with a rival studio's American Tail, 1988's Oliver and Company signaled a brighter future for Disney, but does not count as part of the Disney Renaissance. So we're going to be talking about each film released during this Renaissance period. You'll get the typical movie info like we usually give, but we'll also share our opinions about each movie. And since the majority of these films are musicals, we're going to pick our favorite songs from each one. So let's get started with The Little Mermaid.
Are you sure you don't want to start with the Brave Little Toaster that started in '87? Because
I mean, technically, that's not Walt Disney. That's not Walt Disney Animated Studios.
But was it not part of Disney at all?
I think Disney acquired the rights to it.
Oh, I see.
And showed it on the Disney Channel a lot.
That's what I was going to say, because that's where I watched it, was Disney Channel.
Yeah. But it was not a Disney Animated Studios film. Does not. If it was done by Disney, it was done by a separate studio, sort of the way that like DuckTales is a separate animated studio. The Goofy movie.
Truth.
Things like that.
Of course. Anyone who's thinking of this Disney Renaissance period is first thinking of The Little Mermaid, which was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
We were kids. I mean,
so it came out in November of '89, directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. Both of those names we should be hearing several times. Based on the classic tale by Hans Christian Andersen. Features the vocal talents of Jodie Benson as Ariel, Christopher Daniel Barnes as Eric, who you may know as Spider-Man from the Fox animated Spider-Man TV show, and Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movie. Pat Carroll as Ursula, Samuel E. Wright as Sebastian, and Buddy Hackett as Scuttle. Pulled in $213 million at the box office and has a 93% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes. What are your thoughts, Landon?
I mean, so let's see what time it was. '89, so I'm 8 years old, and of course saw it in the theater. And I think it was just like, I just remember it blowing everybody away. And this was the beginning of like the soundtrack era for like movies. Remember, like this happened, and then it was just like such a big deal to get that soundtrack and memorize every single song. So people who today are just like thinking of like Frozen, like they don't understand. This started at Little Mermaid,
Yeah. Disney of course have had musicals before.
Oh yeah.
Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, they all sing. Usually to small animals for some reason. But this is the one that kind of ushered in a Broadway style of musical in their animated features. Now, of course, when you get going back to Oliver and Company, where you had voices like Billy Joel and Bette Midler, you had like a pop soundtrack coming with that, which is really great. But moving into The Little Mermaid, you really are getting that musical storytelling kind of like you could see this on stage if it made sense for, I don't know how you do that underwater on stage, but isn't there a live Broadway Little Mermaid?
Oh yeah, there have been. I definitely think there have been. Well, and so when I'm thinking back about all these movies from before that I've seen, I mean, when you think about Pinocchio, or you think about, and then even thinking about Mary Poppins later on, you know, that the music has always been amazing. Disney's known for that. So don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm saying that there hasn't just been a whole lot of great music. It's just this is so different. I think part of it's different is because as a culture, we were switching around with V8 or with regular cassette tapes and CDs eventually coming out, and that whole transition from a cassette tape to a CD was a big deal. And the timing with all of these Disney movies and those to be released on CD, it was huge, you know. So I think that kind of made it even bigger than it had ever been before beyond cassette tapes.
And these are the, back in the day when you had the inserts in both the cassette tapes and the CDs that
Yeah.
would, most of the times they print the lyrics on
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's a Michael Jackson album you're buying or a soundtrack from a movie, more often than not, especially with these Disney movies, they're going to print the lyrics. So you're right. I mean, people were listening to these and memorizing the lyrics for each song that came out, and so it just made it all the more fun to, I mean, you could pop a CD or the cassette in your car and listen to it driving down the road. And
Well,
of course, everybody wanted to know what it was like to have 20 thingamabobs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Who's it and what's it galore. I was looking at I just looked up when the CD Walkman came out, and it was 1984. And so I was just thinking, yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, getting the CD, for that was the thing that we didn't get cassette tapes of these soundtracks, but I remember getting these soundtracks was part of the Christmas. It was, you wanted to get the movie on VHS, but you wanted to get the CD as well. That was a big part. But
let's talk about the movie for a second. Can we all agree that Ariel is a hoarder?
I think she's got a problem.
She does. I mean, there needs to be an intervention here. I think that Triton takes it a little too far by destroying everything. That's taking tough love a little. I mean, if you watch an episode of Hoarders and you take them in there and it's like, hey, Grandma, you've got a problem. There's too many newspapers stacked up here. We're gonna burn your house down instead. That's just not gonna work.
It's a bit much.
A little. And
I think he was really offended about the whole. I mean, she did have the leading song. I mean, you have all these sisters leading up to this song.
All right.
And she's the lead and she's not there. I mean, if anything, I would have thought Sebastian would have been the one to burn it down. What I mean?
Right. Another thing too, that's always bothered me about the Little Mermaid. That contract she signs, she says she's 16 years old.
Yeah, she was underage. I don't think it's binding.
That contract would never hold up. I'm not an expert in maritime law, but I'm pretty sure that even at sea, a contract is only binding if you're a legal adult. So when Triton tries to destroy that contract and Ursula says it's legal and binding, I call BS. She's 16. She signed that without an attorney or a guardian present.
I think there's a history there. I think Triton and Ursula, I mean, she'd obviously let herself go a little bit, but I think there could have been a day, especially when she gave herself that new look. It's like, that's might have been, I wouldn't be surprised if Triton was like, oh, that's what you used to look like, and they could have had kind of an arrangement back in the day, the old sea witch and him.
She did mention she used to live in the palace.
Just saying. I have a feeling like this was like there's a backstory there that's not been explored.
She's got some kind of vendetta against Triton, clearly. But all right. Favorite song.
So, all right. I know Part of Your World is like the one everybody, but it's the Under the Sea song. It's always been my favorite. I will find myself thinking about that song randomly as an adult. It's just, what a fun song. That's my favorite one.
Mine is Kiss the Girl.
Oh, yeah. So romantic.
I love that song. I don't know what it is about it.
It's a great song. I mean, you have really all of the elements that a crescendo builds. And by the end of it, you got the whole thing going on, which they're oblivious to. But You're in Love, but I mean, that was really, that was a great song. So
Yeah, I think most people would pick Part of Your World, which again, great song. And did you know that what's his name, who was in charge of animation at that point, Katzenberg, Jeffrey
oh,
Katzenberg, he thought that it was too slow and would ruin the momentum of the movie if they kept it in there. He wanted to remove that song from that movie.
ooh, that would have been a bad call.
That would have been a really bad
Would have
call
been a bad
because
call.
that is like the anthem of the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to our
Yeah.
next movie?
Just, I think, like, how the whole ending was, and Ursula and the whole ship thing and the maelstrom and just right into her gut,
Yeah.
and her skull feature, I mean, she was a really great bad guy.
That was like the electricity and the X-ray kind of image you got of Ursula reminded me so much of Darth Vader.
Oh yeah,
when he
that's
throws
true.
Palpatine down
and the
the
lightning in
shaft.
his face. I know, right?
Very reminiscent of that. I wonder if that was like an homage at all, if they did that on purpose, like thinking about Vader, or if it was just like, this is going to be a cool effect, let's do this.
Yeah. I also think about like in Willow, how what's her face, when she dies.
Oh yeah,
lightning. Bab Morta. So
so live action version of Little Mermaid is coming out later this year.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the live action remakes, but I know I'm going to go see this because I love the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for it.
I mean, I'm with you. The other ones have not landed with me.
No.
I don't think any of them have landed with me. Now, my wife would say differently. She would say that she really liked Lion King, and she really liked the Aladdin, but she would say she liked Lion King more than Aladdin, I would think, because always Robin Williams. We'll get to that, but yeah, I don't know, but I'll still enjoy it.
I'll go see it and I'll sing along. The only one of the live action remakes that I've really liked has been The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion for another day. So let's move on to The Rescuers Down Under. This is the only one that is not a musical. Came out in November of 1990, directed by Hendel Butoy and Mike Gabriel.
I've always appreciated Butoy.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
An underrated director, in my opinion. The first sequel to one of Disney's animated films. They had never done that before. Bob Newhart and Eva Gabor return to play Bernard and Miss Bianca from the original Rescuers. They are joined by John Candy as Wilbur the Albatross and George C. Scott as the villainous Percival C. McLeish, a sadistic poacher who is after a gigantic golden eagle and winds up kidnapping a small child in the process. It only made $47.4 million at the box office, and the Renaissance was over just as quickly as it began. Just kidding. This one sits at 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. What are your thoughts on this Rescuers sequel?
I first saw it. I think I don't know if it came out in theater or not, but I saw it in the when it came out on Disney, and so
this was theatrical release. Now, Disney's typical sequel pattern after this was to go straight to DVD.
Yeah.
With all of a sudden they started doing sequels to everything. There were like a couple of Beauty and the Beast sequels. There were
right.
I know there was another Fox and the Hound. There was I don't know. They got on this kick of releasing sequels to everything, eventually, and
right.
They all
I don't think I watched
DVD.
it until much later, though. I think that's my point. Is that until it came out, like on the Disney Channel or the, how they used to do on, was it ABC? They used to have Disney,
the Wide World of Disney.
Wide World of Disney. Yeah, and they'd have like a feature,
or the Wonderful World of Disney, something like that.
And Michael Eisner would come out and have a little conversation, much in the Disney Walt Disney way,
Right.
And, I thought that was such a great
callback.
time.
I did see this in the theater. because I had really liked the Rescuers,
The first one.
and seeing that as a, like, obviously not in the theater because I came out in 77, but I do remember watching the Rescuers, gosh, maybe at the age of 4 or 5. um and I remember, like, even now, like, I think about the opening song for the original Rescuers, um as just like super sad. um and they, like, because it's this sad song over this little girl who is, she's sending a letter through a bottle,
Right.
and it just shows her, like, one little tear dropping down, like, you poor little thing. um
It's like American Tail.
but that's, I mean, that's the original Rescuers. That's a different era. Let's get back to the Rescuers Down Under. This one was, I mean, it was all right. It wasn't
I
great.
liked it more than the first one, but I think I liked it more than the first one because I thought it was of a bigger scale.
Yeah,
Just the idea of the bird, or the eagle, and Australia, and just it was exotic and it was fun and it was put them in a different scenario. It was outside of both their or his comfort zone anywhere. But it's I liked it.
I would really like to know why. Okay, the mice can talk, the albatross can talk. Why can't the giant eagle talk?
Listen, you're asking a question that doesn't make sense across many things. Why can Goofy talk but Pluto can't? You
It's
know,
true. They're
unless
both
Pluto can, and
dogs.
he just chooses not to.
Ooh,
Just
what's he doing? What, like, is he like some kind of spy?
yeah, that's
Well,
right.
he's in there living in the house with the mouse.
House
Okay.
in the house.
Yeah, no songs in this one, because it's the only movie in the Renaissance that did not become a musical, which is fine. Nice little action adventure piece. But let's move on to the next musical, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. So when I think about this period of time, I think four movies. I think Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King.
Yeah,
And
those are the big
everything
four.
else is fine, but those are the four, and that's
Right.
that's what everybody remembers. And this one, it's for me, and I know you want to talk about the stats, but just I think like this movie took it to another level. It was great. It was Little Mermaid, and then you have now this one. It's like, oh my gosh, what's next?
Yeah. So if we're looking at the Disney Renaissance, we're looking at it like, all right, let's see it as a roller coaster, right? Little
Yeah,
Mermaid, you go up, then Rescuers Down Under, you come back down a little bit,
yeah,
but then Beauty and the Beast, it's like, all right,
yeah.
you're going up, you're ramping up, and you
And
keep
you're going
going up, you keep
higher.
going up. All right, so this one came out again in November, but in 1991,
2
directed
years
by
later.
Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise, based on the classic tale by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, very French. Voices of Paige O'Hara as Belle, Robbie Benson as the Beast, Jerry Orbach as Lumiere, David Ogden Stiers as Cogsworth, and Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Potts.
It's so funny to me that Jerry Orbach was Lumiere. It's just so weird, just seeing him, in his other
I
roles.
know, because usually you picture him, he's the detective on Law and Order, right?
Yeah, or the dad
Or the
in
dad
Dirty
on Dirty
Dancing.
Dancing.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no.
It's so great though. He does
It's
such a good
so
job.
great. He does.
Like, no, nothing against shoot, Ewan McGregor,
Yeah.
but I mean, come on, guys.
No, sorry. No, Jerry Orbach definitely over Ewan McGregor.
Box office total was $440 million, and it sits at 94% on the RT. Thoughts?
Good chunk of change back there. $400 million,
Do you know that this is the first feature-length animated film to have been nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and that led to the creation of the Best Animated Feature category.
No, that's awesome. When I think back at the movie, I remember feeling like it felt like the fairy tale that I had always wanted to see. I had seen like the Grimm's little featurette things, and there were plenty of fairy tale stories that came along, and Jack and the Beanstalk kind of stuff, but this was a fairy tale. This was really cool.
Yeah, this is like next level. And like when you think about, like I said, with a lot of these movies, they're playing them out as if they are Broadway shows, and this one, above all the rest, like I feel like was meant to be a stage show.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that this is the first one that they like transformed into a stage show.
This was definitely on Broadway
after it came out. So this is gonna be controversial. I thought, after seeing the first trailers for it before I saw the movie, I thought it was gonna be stupid.
Oh yeah.
As a small child, what was I, 11 years old when that came out?
Yeah.
I remember seeing
you were already a
commercial
critic
for it.
at 11. I remember, at this time at 11, but that's pretty hardcore. You were made for this.
I just thought, seriously, a talking candlestick, talking clock. Well, this has nothing to do with Beauty and the Beast. See, because I'm remembering like the old, like I don't know, there was a live action version that I remember watching like in preschool or kindergarten that was like super low budget.
Oh yeah.
But like it was just Beauty and the Beast, and that's it. There were no talking furnishings in the castle. I was like,
when was the show? When was the show that had
the Ron Perlman, Catherine?
Yeah,
Catherine was the character.
The Linda Hamilton.
Is that no? Not Linda Hamilton.
It was the girl from Terminator.
Yeah. Is her name Linda
Hamilton? Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking that was somebody else. That was 87.
Okay, so that was later. No, that was before.
That was before this.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. I remember that being a show. I don't know if my parents watched it or y'all watched it. I really liked that show. When it
I didn't come to appreciate that until much later.
Okay. So I remember watching it, and then this idea of this movie came out, and I'm like, huh. It wasn't like I wasn't a big deal, but I do remember in the trailer they had the da 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 da, that whole thing, and they'd have the going through the trees and seeing and that was I think isn't this the time when they started doing the animation with the different layers, right?
Oh no, they'd been doing that since Bambi.
Oh, okay.
This is where we started noticing.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. This is where we started noticing that they're really starting to use CGI in their animated features.
I feel like there was something groundbreaking that happened with Little Mermaid and this movie that was pioneering, but I can't remember what it was.
So in the ballroom, when they have the big dance number,
yeah,
and Angela Lansbury singing Beauty and the Beast, that is the ballroom is all computer generated.
Okay, so it was the CGI aspect, not the layers. Okay.
But that wasn't the first movie they used CGI on. I believe the first one they did was The Great Mouse Detective, with the scene inside Big Ben and all of the clockworks and everything.
Man, talk about a bad guy. Gaston, he was a really, really good bad guy, but that song that they do together, LeFou and him, what's it called then? No one,
just Gaston.
It's just called Gaston.
Yeah.
So it was a fun character that you love to hate. Just he's so arrogant, but
LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking a dangerous pastime. I know.
Man, I know you could sing every single song. I could too.
Oh man. Favorite song in Beauty and the Beast. Do you have a favorite? I mean, it's very very Broadway. Very like each song is part of the story and gives exposition.
Okay, so I love Angela Lansbury, love her, and loved the song. And I always love how they do the main songs and they have like the famous artists sing it at, somebody else sings it and
Right. The
I don't
pop
know,
version.
the pop version, right? But my favorite song and is actually the opener with Belle.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I figure everybody else would just be like that, Taylor's Beauty and the Beast song.
I mean, it's very like, let's get to Brigadoon, and and everybody is coming out. You've got the entire cast coming in, singing this huge song, introducing your main
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Um, starts off kind of slow, kind of,
They all start. That's the best part. Yeah.
and then it just kicks in. Everybody is part of this town, and
She had a beautiful voice too. I mean,
yeah.
just it's a great voice, and the other songs are. I mean, there's still a lot of great songs. Is there a least favorite song for you?
I do not like Human Again, which they added to the special edition. So apparently when they recorded the song originally, but cut it for time, and then never animated it for as part of the movie. But then they included it in the Broadway production, and it became a hit with the
When does
show.
it take place?
It is right after the scene where she and the Beast are feeding birds in the snow,
Yeah.
and they're not singing out loud. It's like their internal monologue.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like a reprise to the Bell number. And then they cut away to the to Lumiere and Cogsworth and Mrs. Potts inside looking out the window. Now, who'd have guessed that they'd I don't know. I can't remember. Like, if I hear it in my head, I could hear it. But it's right after that they transition, like in the special edition, they transition right into "We'll Be Human Again," and like each piece of furniture or whatever gets to sing like what they're going to do when they're human again.
That sounds boring.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. And then after that, it transitions into Beauty and the Beast, where they're dancing in the ballroom, and
There's something there that wasn't there before.
that's
It's
it.
probably my least favorite. Yeah.
That so it's after that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
There may be something there that wasn't there before. Yeah, Human Again comes in after that. So I'm saying that's my least favorite. But it's not included on the original version, which is what's on Disney Plus, thankfully.
If we're talking about the live action versions of the three that have been out of the main four, I think this one would be my favorite thus far.
I really didn't like the live action version.
You didn't like the live action?
Not at all.
It's just because I like Josh Gad, and
I
thought so.
So there were aspects of it that I did like. I liked the how they tried to fill in the plot holes of like how long have they been enchanted at this point.
Yeah.
And why is it that no one in town knows anything about this?
Yeah.
And so I like how they kind of filled that in where it's, you almost, it's not spelled out so much, but I kind of get the headcanon that it's like they're living the same thing over and over again, which makes more sense with her song that, this provincial life or whatever is every day is the same since they came to town. And, and so that makes sense. Like nobody is aging. Nobody is changing at all. Every day is like the day before.
Yeah.
And so like the town is just as enchanted as the castle until the spell is broken. So I think that, working that into the story, I think was really good. But as much as I love Emma Watson, she was auto-tuned like crazy, and it
that's true.
Showed so much.
That's true.
I could not get past it. I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theater, and I don't plan to.
Well, it won't ever be. None of these movies will ever be able to compare the originals ever.
No.
Yeah,
And
there's
that's
no
why
way.
it's, that's my thing. It's like, why? I mean,
Why do
no,
it?
I get it. I get why Disney's doing it because they're playing on our nostalgia. And of course, they're going to make $1 billion at the box office because they're doing this. And so it's a good investment. But for me, it's like, why am I going to go pay $15 to see a remake of a movie I can watch at home in better quality for free?
I'd be interested now that my kids have gotten a little older, 10 and 14. We've of course watched all of these movies when they were younger, but they haven't seen them at this age. It's been a long time. I'd be interested in seeing, based upon where they're at in their childhood, with everything else that's come out. If they were to see it now, would they be like, this is a quality movie? You know?
That is interesting because so many kids, I feel like these days, they're so used to the 3D animation, the computer generated animation, as opposed to the traditional hand drawn 2D animation. So I've known kids who, when you go back and show them things like Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella or Little Mermaid, this is boring.
Yeah, yeah, because it does visually doesn't stimulate.
Traditional cartoons just don't do it anymore.
I had my son watch. We're going through all the Batman movies, and we watched Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, which you and I talked about before. It's an amazing movie. But when it first starts off, he's like, "This is old," I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it is old." I said, "But the plot's good." And he watched it, and I think he had a little trouble getting over it. I try to remind myself that when the animated series came out, I was still used to the artwork and all that. So it was a bit of a stark thing for him. So I guess I can appreciate it a little bit, this stark difference between what they're used to.
You need to show them the series too.
I know. I should. Well, I need to force him.
Force, introduce, tie him up, whatever you got to do to
Whatever,
make sure he sees it. Now I'm picturing like a Clockwork Orange with his eyes like forced
If
open.
I just give him enough sugar, his eyes are like that anyway. So
All right, next up we have Aladdin, released in, surprise, surprise, November of
but only a
1992.
year later.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
all of these have so far been each November since '89. Directed by John Musker and Ron Clements. This is based on the classic tale from 1001 Arabian Nights, starring Scott Weinger as Aladdin, who of course was what's his name from Full House?
Hold on.
Boyfriend.
Weinger?
Weinger, yeah.
I've always said Winger.
According to classic German spelling, if the I comes after the E, you pronounce the I. And I've also heard him pronounce his name that way too. Linda Larkin as Jasmine, Jonathan Freeman as the evil Jafar, Gilbert Godfrey as Jafar's pet / hench parrot Iago, and of course, the incomparable Robin Williams as the genie.
Oh man.
Earned $504 million at the box office. That's $500 million, and has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean,
why not
thoughts?
100?
Why what?
Why not 100?
Because most critics are cynical jerks like me who can't appreciate things and don't know how to have fun.
Let me tell you something. Until that gets to 100, the world still needs working on. Just saying. That's the way it is.
Did you know that Robin Williams also voices the peddler at the start of the movie?
I did, yeah.
So the story I heard, apparently, like in the studio, they set up a table with a bunch of like random objects on it and just told him to go to town.
Of course.
And so, like, thinking about that and thinking about like just how improvisational he was in life, like I've gotta ask, like, I wonder how much improvised material they just had to leave on the cutting room floor
Oh, surely.
because
How
they
much of it
had
was animated later after he had done it? Like he sits there with all those toys and he's like, a combination of Julianne and Copymaker, you know? I mean,
well all of it like so that's how they do it. He records his lines and then they animate the genie based on him and his movements and his what he says and does. And so like the when he you know does his Jack Nicholson
yeah.
talking to Aladdin, and then the animator's like, all right, so we've got to turn him into Jack Nicholson. Now it's not going to make sense in second century Persia, but here we are. Um,
Oh man,
but it's so
so
great.
so
It's so
good.
great.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but Will Smith just doesn't come close to,
No.
to what we got as
No.
with Robin Williams as the genie.
No. I mean, Robin Williams got the slapstick. Will Smith just got the slap.
No,
Oh,
Chris Rock got the slap.
oh, that's true. That's good.
Put him.
Yeah. So, I gotta say, this is my favorite movie of all Disney movies ever. Favorite movie, always. I
Also,
don't know
mine
if
was
it just
Beauty and the
hit
Beast.
me. It just hit me at the right time.
Yeah,
The age. Which one? 92. All right.
92.
So
Yeah.
I'm 11 years old at this point. I mean, whew, and the songs. Oh man, just listening to them. And Jafar, the epic battle. I thought Aladdin was the coolest person in the world. The other side of it too is you think about like this movie and it being a guy and of course Jasmine in her own right was quite the heroine in herself. And so it wasn't like he was like more important than her at all. I didn't feel like, even though the movie was named after him, but still, it's just like all these other movies before it, it was always Disney princesses. So you could appreciate the movies, but man, I'm an 11-year-old. I want to be Aladdin.
Right. Is it wrong to admit this as a grown man? Jasmine was hot.
She was hot. I think so.
I mean, yeah, she's an animated character, but I
I think
mean,
it
I had
helps
a
that
crush.
I was going to say, I think it helps that you've always had a crush since the age of 12 for yourself. Obviously, if you're watching a kids movie now and you're
Well,
like,
that's
well,
disturbing.
that would be a little disturbing. Other than Jessica Rabbit, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's a completely different story.
Completely different.
Favorite song?
All right. So again, I know that people have these main favorites, Whole New World, Friend Like Me, but that first song again, I that being able to sing the one where
Arabian Nights?
No, the sorry, second song, I guess.
Oh.
So where he's in the street, he's the street rat, and he's got to keep one jump ahead of the red line, one swing. Memorizing that and being able to sing it, and at the speed,
it's
was
very
like an accomplishment.
song.
So that was my favorite because I listened to it over and over and over again to get it right.
It's like learning how to sing 1 week with Bare Naked Ladies.
That's right. Yeah. That's hard.
Nah, mine's gonna be with A Whole New World. I just love that duet. I'm a sucker for duets.
The version, the pop version with Celine Dion.
No, that's no. She did Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, she'd be in the Beats. Who did Pablo? Who's the girl?
I'm not sure.
I gotta look it up. All right, so Celine Dion did Beauty and the Beast
With Peebo Bryson, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm not sure about A Whole New World pop version, but it was really well done.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I'm gonna say Never Had a Friend Like Me is, I mean,
so good.
Again, it's one of those where it's like, you get Robin Williams in a studio and just say, hey man, have at it. Do your thing. Like, you cannot contain Robin Williams. You cannot put him on a leash. You're like, all right, we need you to read these lines and these lines only. Robin Williams like, I don't need lines.
No,
just tell me the plot of the story and I'll just go from there.
I'm having a
Find
hard
it.
time finding the original soundtrack because it wants to bring. There we go. Got it.
Did they bring Peebo Bryson back for this
Yeah,
one?
yeah. I knew he was in it. So Regina Bell.
Regina Bell, that's right. Peebo
Oh,
Bryson, Regina Bell doing
yeah.
the thing with
Now,
Whole New World.
did you go to Disney World at any time in our childhood?
I have been to Disney World twice. I went in, so our family went in seventh. Well, when I was in seventh grade, so this would have been a couple years after this. And then I went again in college. I haven't been since.
We would go every 4 years for a period of time. And that might have been just like 3 times in 3 period where it could have been like 8, 12, and 16 or something like that for me. But there were I remember it because it would be like we're getting towards 4 years, and we would just be pressing to be able to go to Disney World. Which now looking back on that, sorry, Dad, sorry that I did that to you. You know, I mean, geez, going to Disney now is like, huh, compared to like going to Universal
Well, yeah, you have to take out a second mortgage on your house just to afford Disney World.
or a third. So but the reason I bring it up is because when we went sometime around here after this movie had come out, and I might have been 13 or 14 when we went that time, but they had that parade
Yeah,
for Prince Ali.
yeah.
And I had never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah, they did that at at the time it was MGM Studios in that
Never in my
portion of the park.
life.
Yeah, that they did that when we went when I was in seventh grade too. Yeah, it was really great. And then when the genie comes out, like in
That
that the
was,
last float that comes,
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
like he's not there at first, and then
yeah.
there he is. So
Such
yeah,
a
that was
good
really
thing.
neat. Very entertaining parade, and I'm not one for parades either. But it was really cool. All right, now so we're still ramping up. We're ramping up, and we're hitting the peak now with the Lion King.
Yeah, yeah.
So they changed things up. This one, so 1993 was the only year throughout this decade that did not see a new Disney movie come out or an animated Disney movie come out. This one came out in June of 94,
Yeah.
directed by Roger Allers and Rob Minkoff. It is an original story from the studio, but heavily influenced by William Shakespeare's Hamlet. This one has a stacked cast.
Oh my gosh.
You got old JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas as young Simba,
That
Matthew
was a big
Broderick
deal
as
then.
adult Simba,
Yep.
James Earl Jones as Mufasa. You're supposed to go, ooh, do it again. Jeremy Irons as Scar, Moira Kelly as Nala, Nathan Lane as Timon, Ernie Sabella as Pumbaa. You may know him as Leon Carosi from that summer when the Saved by the Bell kids got summer jobs.
Yep. That's right.
Robert Guillaume as Rafiki, Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean himself as Zazu, Whoopi Goldberg as Shenzi the hyena, and Cheech Marin as Bonsai the hyena. And then there's Ed. He doesn't have any lines, but I'm pretty sure.
Makes work.
Yeah. So it made an amazing $968 million at the box office,
so
just shy of $1
crazy.
billion. And that's 90s money.
Yeah, that's 90s money. And nothing had ever hit that before, right?
No.
Yeah.
Not an animation for sure. And so this had a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, if I was going to say that Aladdin was my favorite, I mean, this is so close to that. And part of it too, like the movie was helpful for a kid who has this like an American kid, just seeing another culture, seeing Africa and having this wildlife, this safari look, and you're getting a cast and people that are just like star-studded. It's just, at the time, I don't know who Jeremy Irons is, and James Earl Jones, I mean, I think I knew who he was because of seeing other things like Field of Dreams or The Sandlot later, I guess I would see. And then,
But you
you
hear
know,
his voice.
but you hear his voice, of course, in, for Darth
Oh,
Vader.
that's Darth Vader.
But still at the same time, Darth Vader's so his own that I don't always associate that with James Earl Jones. Like when
Are
I'm
you
thinking
kidding?
of James
I
Earl
was
Jones,
disappointed when they took Darth Vader's mask off and it wasn't James Earl Jones.
you're like, what?
This is not how it works.
Still, it's like that's not how the Force works. Sorry. I don't know. This movie was pretty cool for me. The part where Mufasa dies, though, pretty
Spoilers.
hard. Yeah, spoiler. But that was pretty hard, for a kid watching that scene.
As an adult, I still cry when Mufasa dies. All right.
Oh
It
my
is
gracious.
heartbreak. Like, no, heartbreaking is not a strong enough. It's like the animators reach inside my chest like Mola Ram and just rip my heart out. And they're like, you're not going to be eating this anymore. And then they drop kick it across the room.
There you go. There you go.
John
Wick fashion.
Like, oh my gosh. And it's not hard, like when, sure, it's a powerful scene when Jeremy, I mean, excuse me, when Scar, clamps onto Mufasa's paws and says, "Long live the king," and then tosses him off the cliff into the stampeding herd of wildebeests. And I'm okay at that point. It's not until Simba comes down and tries to wake Mufasa up and say, "Dad, we got to go."
I watched
and
this
then
video.
He's like, "Somebody help."
Oh, that part. Yeah,
somebody.
It's the
anybody.
Flood. I know.
Help.
I watched this video of a mom took a video of her little kid watching not a toddler, maybe 5 or something like that, watching Lion King for the first time. And it's really sadistic, actually, that the mom did this, but she's watching her kid do it. And she's like, when Mufasa falls, and then the little kid's like, "Oh, he's sleeping. Yeah, he's sleeping. Simba, wake him up." And then she's looking, and you see, and then you see the kid start crying. I'm like, and I'm looking at it and I'm identifying, but I'm going to the mom. I'm like, how could you do this to your child?
Why would you do this? Although I've seen a similar video, but with a kid watching the Chipmunk Adventure. Do you remember that movie?
You talk about the Rescue Rangers?
No. Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, yeah.
The Chipmunk Adventure, where they're flying in the hot air balloons around the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's a scene there in that one where
the cartoon one.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that movie.
Where the Chipettes have a baby penguin.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take it back to the Antarctic to reunite the penguin with its parents. And they're singing a song about missing their mother. And so apparently, like, I guess the video, like, you can find it on YouTube, is like, you can tell that the mom is videoing this little girl in the back seat of the car watching it when they're stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
And she can't be more than 3 years old tops. And as they're singing this song, she is like, her lip is just doing this thing where it's pouting out, and her eyes are like just welling up with tears, and she's trying so hard not to cry.
Yeah.
But it's like she can't stop it from happening. And like throughout the song, and she keeps wiping tears away from her eyes. She's not like openly sobbing or anything. She's just like, like you would do if you're sitting in a movie theater. "No, this is fine. I'm fine. This is I just got something in my eye."
Allergies. Oh, listen, Aaron, I got to tell you this. This is a little side note. Jensen was like, I don't know, super young. Like, I don't know. I mean, it was whenever The Good Dinosaur came out. Let me see when that came out. That can help me know the time period. 2015. All right. So 8 years ago, 10 now. He's 2. 2-ish, 3 or something like that in that realm. So we're watching this movie, and it's okay. It was an okay movie. It's about the caveman meets a dinosaur, and they all become friends. And we're just watching this movie for little buddy here to watch it with us. Little toddler Sydney's there too. We're watching all of a sudden, and it comes to the end where they have to go spoiler free. Just saying, just they go separate directions, and like we're watching, going, oh, we look over, and our son is like. And like hard sobbing, and Daphne and I are like, what happened? Or did you hurt yourself? He's like, it's his friend, and I mean, we're just like overwhelmed, and part of it's like, oh, your soul is showing, and it's kind of a good thing, right? Your
soul is showing. You better cover that up.
Your child has this valuable empathetic trait, but oh man, that was, I see that, and I see a movie like this, and I'm like, whoo, get you.
So what's crazy is animators did not want to work on this movie.
Why?
All the excitement at the studio was for Pocahontas, and so they all wanted to be put on Pocahontas, thinking the Lion King is going to be this small time kind of thing. It's an original story. No one's going to care about the Lion King. But then you bring in music by Elton John.
See, that'll do.
All right. So what's your favorite song from the Lion King?
Come back to me. You go first.
So with the Lion King, what's crazy about the Lion King is there have been a number of covers done with a lot of these songs. And I'm not one to be a big fan of bluegrass music, but there is a version of Circle of Life on the album. I think it's titled Mickey, Oh Mickey, Where Art Thou? Which is a play on Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
But it is a bluegrass album of Disney covers. And I can't remember who it was that did. I want to say it was Ricky Skaggs, maybe, that did the cover of Circle of Life.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic. I love that version of Circle of Life. But I mean, if we're talking about just from this movie, gosh, it's hard to pick because you got Just Can't Wait to Be King.
Yeah.
Which is super fun.
That's fun.
But you've also got Be Prepared.
Yeah.
Which is super ominous and scary and like perfectly personifies Scar.
Yeah. And who could do it better than Jeremy Irons? That voice,
Just a great song, and so full of Nazi imagery.
Well, and he's just like when he was in Die Hard with a Vengeance. He was the same guy. You're just like, oh, you're just
evil.
Evil. I guess I'd have to say Hakuna Matata for me.
Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase.
We went on a Disney cruise a few years ago, and Jensen and I got up to the karaoke, and we did Hakuna Matata. And nice. I did he did Timon, and I did Pumbaa. So I got up there and I did the voice, it was pretty fun. Well, what about you? So what did you say, which one is your favorite? So you're saying Circle of Life in the bluegrass version is your favorite?
Yeah. I mean, I really, as far as this movie goes, I don't think there's a bad song.
No, they're all pretty good.
I'm not a fan of Elton John's version of Can You Feel the Love Tonight? I would rather listen to the movie version of it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's just more fun that way. But I tell you what, thinking about that song, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, it's the perfect setup for Scar, really, because he blames Simba for Mufasa's death, right? Or tries to have that's the story they put out.
Right.
It would be the perfect thing, like to say, hey, Simba's the one that did this. I mean, we just heard him singing about how he can't wait to be king. Maybe he has been plotting the death of his father. Who knows?
Yeah. Little crazy kid.
Punk. All right. So
Funk.
this is we've hit the peak, and now we're gonna start going down a little bit, and maybe it's down from here for the rest of the decade. I don't know. Because next we got Pocahontas, which everyone was excited about. But it was released the following June in 1995, directed by Mike Gabriel and Eric Goldberg. It
How much money did
romanticizes,
it make?
huh?
How much money did it make?
We'll get there. It romanticizes the encounter between historical figures Pocahontas and John Smith, heavily altered and Disneyfied. Um, Translation: it's a bunch of BS.
We'll talk about that in a second.
It starred Irene, is it Bedard as Pocahontas? I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, Irene. Mel Gibson as John Smith. David Ogden Stiers comes back again. He was once Cogsworth. Now he's Governor Ratcliffe. Christian Bale as Thomas. Billy Connolly as Ben. And Linda Hunt as Grandmother Willow. Earned $346 million at the box office and sits at only 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. Might be the lowest one of the Disney Renaissance. You know, I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably my least favorite of this era, but still better than Avatar. You know,
the only thing that, and definitely better than Shazam 2.
Well, I mean, no.
So
but better than Avatar. The reason I say that is because Avatar is clearly a ripoff of Pocahontas.
So yeah, you just add in a few things. So you and I, growing up in Virginia, I mean, we had colonial Virginia history drilled into us.
Oh, heck yeah.
Part of the requirement. And I'm so glad for it. I really am. But I haven't gone to Jamestown and Colonial Williamsburg.
These were like annual trips.
Yeah, we really, really got it ingrained in us about all of Virginia history. So let me just go ahead and clear the air here when it comes to John Smith. Having blonde hair is crazy, but we can deal with that. Sure. That's okay. That's okay. Little hair. The sun can
not that much.
But let's talk about John Smith saving Pocahontas, which is cool. Or Pocahontas saving John Smith. Sorry, backwards. But she married John Rolfe.
Yeah.
The tobacco guy.
Forced into that marriage, by the way.
Well,
plus, when John Smith landed with the company, the Virginia company, Pocahontas was 13.
Well, I didn't mean much back then.
There was no romance between Pocahontas and John Smith.
Now she did. It's historical that she did save him from being killed.
Is that historical, or is that like one of those anecdotes that people like to tell and little George Washington not chopping down a cherry tree kind of thing? That never happened. Well, it's a story we like to tell about our historical figures.
As far as writing the history and stuff goes, I mean, it was in the books. There was not that means. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to tear down.
There was a drawing of it in my history book. It happened.
That's exactly right. That's all I'm saying. Well, I guess what I'll say is we could consider a formal training, whether it is an error or not, depicting that she saved him. Right. Wow. So that's fine. You want to build a movie, about that sort of thing, but then it becoming romantic and her being like much older and him being maybe a shy younger to try to make it work, I thought was kind of, it crossed a line with Disney that I don't think I've seen. I don't think I have seen a line like that crossed with them. Can you
I even remember, I think as a kid, of course, this comes out, I'm 16 at this point. So, you can still call me a kid, I guess, if you want to. I'm sure I didn't consider myself a kid at 16, but yeah, I was a kid. Because now I consider people in their early 30s kids. Yep. I remember when the trailer for this came out. Of course, the trailer for this was just basically the colors of the wind sequence, right? Her singing, and that's beautiful.
It's
It's a
beautiful.
gorgeous song.
Yeah.
It's, it's a wonderful like ode to nature,
Right.
and it really is. When we get to talking about favorite songs from the movie, that's my favorite song from the movie.
Yeah.
But I remember actively telling my parents, I don't want to see this movie. That is not Pocahontas. That is not
No.
John Smith. This is not that story. I don't know what they have done to this history, but that is not history.
So my question would be for you is, and I would be interested if anybody's listening, and we love comments and thoughts, especially if you didn't grow up in Virginia. I wonder how much of this was because of us and a combination of that and our age, because at 15, 14, we're starting to be a little, that age is you start to be a little more cynical. I mean, obviously you came out of the womb cynical,
Yeah.
but I just mean we
I
get
think
a
it
little
started 2 or 3 for me.
a little more enhanced. I wonder how much of that is like a combination of that being drilled into us, plus us being a little extra cynical of movies at that age, more than normal. I'd be interested in somebody else who would say, "Oh no, I love that movie," and I'd like to know why. So please, if you're listening, please say something.
And I got to think too about my age at that point, because I would probably say, looking at the rest of the Renaissance, uh the Lion King was the last one I saw in theaters until Tarzan came out. I don't think I saw any of the rest of them in fact, I know I didn't.
Yeah.
Do you so is there anything else you have to say about Pocahontas, or can we move on from that trash heap?
Please let us move on.
Okay. I mean, seriously, you thought that was better than Shazam 2? I mean, come on, man. All right. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, released in June of 96. Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise directed, based on the classic French novel by Victor Hugo, starring Tom Hulce as Quasimodo, Demi Moore as Esmeralda, Tony Jay as Judge Frollo, and Kevin Kline as Captain Phoebus. Phoebus? Was it Phoebus?
I don't remember if it.
I can't remember. I haven't watched it recently, but I do have a better appreciation for it these days than I did early on when I refused to go see it. 325 million at the box office, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a dark movie.
It's pretty dark, but I consider this to be like the B film Disney movies. At this point, we start to get into this era of a whole bunch of movies that are just subpar compared to these four, that are amazing. I really like this movie more than anyone I've ever known. And I think part of it was, I think the songs were good, but the darker element of it was, I mean, it just kind of touched an area that I had not really been exposed to, as far as like the criminal aspect, and then this overlording, regime, this traditional regime, although it's a shame it's church, but it's that kind of thing was historical even.
But a lot of persecution of the Romani people.
What did you think
and
about
Judge Frollo, his character is just fraught with
corruption
problems and corruption. Lust for Esmeralda.
That was that was weird.
And this is one of those movies I'm surprised managed a G rating. I think the next Disney movie to have a PG, or next animated Disney to have a PG, was What Until Tangled came out in 2010. But this one, I think, really pushed the envelope as far as its content goes, and especially Frollo's song that he sings. And I'm, this is one of those, like I said, I didn't see this in the theater, and I've probably only seen it a handful of times as an adult. So I'm not as familiar with the soundtrack as, obviously with the earlier Disney Renaissance stuff. So I'm not familiar with the titles of the songs, but I know Frollo's song in particular is super dark, and I mean, really, it's disturbing.
And it's almost
the content of it.
Interestingly enough, although he is, it's almost like you get two different sides of I don't even know if Puritan is the right word, but you get obviously the church who has the sanctuary for Quasimodo, and you
Mhm.
have their people who are very much like, I mean, that I don't know if priest or monk or whoever he was is like, you cannot come up here, you know? That scene at the beginning was a very powerful scene where they come up there and I mean he's going to what kill this baby, you know, he's going to kill
Mhm.
the you know the mom and dad are dead, you know, run down and all this, and he's going to kill this baby, and he's like convicting him, and Frollo's scared, you know, about this judgment on him. It reminds me of Javert in Les Mis,
Oh
the
yeah.
way that his character is, he has this regime and strictness, but a darkness inside of him as well. That's obsessive. Ooh,
It
yeah,
makes sense. They are both Victor Hugo characters.
no,
Um, favorite song?
out there, always
Which one is that?
safe beyond these windows and these parapets of
Is
stone.
that Esmeralda's song or
No,
is
no, no,
that
it's
Quasimodo's
Quasimodo's
song?
out there.
I like
Ba-da-ba-ba.
so the one that Esmeralda does, I think, is really good.
Oh, God help the outcasts.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
I will listen to that often.
I do. I thought that was a great song. Any other
Oh,
thoughts before we move on to our next dumpster fire? No, let's not call. Let's not say that. I
no,
mean,
no, I'm
Hercules is
just
fun.
they're just they're subpar, but I think I would recommend, you know, for anybody to obviously reading the book, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or anything. The Victor Hugo books are great, but this is a good movie to see if you're a teenager.
Yeah,
I think.
like I said, it's grown on me in my adult years. Like I guess I went through that period where I'm not going to go see animated movies, but this is
Are
good.
you back now?
Oh, I'm surprised I ever left. I mean, let's be honest. Next is Hercules, released in June of '97, directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, based on ancient Greek mythology. It stars Tate Donovan as the title character, Danny DeVito as Phil, James Woods as Hades, Susan Egan as Megara, and Rip Torn as Zeus. Made $252.7 million at the box office and earned a critic rating of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thoughts?
This is like Rip Torn being Zeus is funny to me, although his voice is so memorable. But I remember seeing Rip Torn for the first time in Beastmaster as the
Oh my
bad guy,
gosh,
and
that's a throwback.
he's so evil in that movie. So hearing his voice there, and then later seeing him in Men in Black, it's just like
We're
this
not
guy,
hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
Kigger. It's just a voice. Um, you know, this is a movie that a lot of people like that I never really cared for.
No,
Definitely liked it more than Pocahontas, but I just the art and the songs and the way what's the type of music you'd say it was where they were maybe kind
it's
of jazz
almost
metal?
gospel.
Yeah, gospel. That's yeah, but it was just, you know, I just didn't it didn't land with me, and I didn't care about it very much, and I have never really liked James Woods in any way. As an act, I mean, I've never enjoyed his performances anyway. So I don't know. What about you?
So as somebody who really enjoys the stories from Greek mythology,
Yeah,
big fan of the Percy Jackson books.
yeah.
I wanted to be excited for this movie, but when I saw trailers for it, I was like, nope, I don't care.
Mhm.
Again, fell into that category of, oh, I'm not going to see animated movies because I'm just too cool for that. I'm 17 now.
Yeah,
I don't want to see it.
yeah.
Um, I again, like Hunchback, this has grown on me over the years, but overall, it is not like it will never hit a favorite for me. It's not going to crack my top 10 of Disney movies. Um, it's okay. I like it just enough to enjoy Go the Distance. I think is a great song.
Yeah, me too. Michael
Um,
Bolton, right?
yeah, he did the pop version.
Yeah.
Whatever the again, most of these songs I don't know the titles of them, but the song that Megara sings,
Yeah.
her kind of anthem, I think is really
Yeah.
good. But that's about it. That's about all the positives I can say for it, because for me, like the Greek mythology, the stories that you read about and hear about, it's changed way too much for this movie, and it doesn't hold true to the I mean, but then again, it's like anything else. It's been Disney-fied. I
Yeah.
mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the Little Mermaid, the way that Hans Christian Andersen wrote it,
Oh yeah, so different.
it's super depressing.
So
Like,
different.
she
But
dies and turns into sea foam. That's
yeah,
not a happy ending.
and that's true for many things though. I mean, you think about like Alice in Wonderland, I mean, or think about the Wizard of Oz even, that's on its own. It's just so many different things, when you take it off of the page. Um, I don't know, anybody listening to this, when I said Michael Bolton, did anybody think about Office Space? Because I said it and it came right to mind. I had no talent.
Why don't you just go by Mike? Why should I change? He's the one that sucks. Yeah.
Oh, I need to see that movie again.
It's so great. All right. Any other thoughts on Hercules?
No.
Heracles. Mulan is next, June of '98. Barry Cook and Tony Bancroft directed, based on the Ballad of Mulan by Guo Mao Chien. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably butchering the name. Ming Na Wen as Mulan, Eddie Murphy as Mushu, the dragon, B.D. Wong as Captain Li Sheng, Miguel Ferrer as Shan Yu, and Pat Morita as the Emperor of China.
Mr. Miyagi
himself. That's right. Pulled in $304 million and has 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is one I actually really like. I didn't see this until probably my junior year of college. Somebody had a VHS of it and invited me over to their dorm room to watch it. It was great. But overall thoughts on Mulan?
I put it off for a long while, and I had convinced myself after Hercules that I was out. That they were just
giving up on Disney. You suck.
Yeah, I mean, I there just wasn't anything. When later Frozen would come out, and that was like, and Tangled, those movies, I was like, oh my gosh, they're back. At this point, after Hercules, that was I had no patience for it. I later saw Mulan. I can't remember what the occasion was, but it was in the background or something. I was just watching it, doing something else, and I thought, I thought it was pretty good. It was better than any of the other B films that I had seen before, Hunchback being in its own category for me. But yeah, I liked it. The song though,
Reflection.
Yeah, Reflection. That was a great song, and still, I could listen to that anytime and enjoy it. I've heard many different people sing that song. That's a great part.
Yeah, and even Christina Aguilera's pop version of it was really good, I thought. I think this is a really good movie. I mean, I don't have much to say about it just because this is one I haven't seen very much, but this is where I feel like, on that roller coaster, you're coming up to that last hill, to try and end on an upswing.
Did you see the live action
Renaissance one? I did not see the live action one.
I've not seen the live action either. I need to see the live action one.
I mean, it's on Disney Plus, but I had no desire to see it because it's not the musical that Mulan, that the original is.
There's no songs.
No, there's no music. It's just a straight up action movie, which may be interesting, but I think they changed. From what I understand, they changed too much about it to make it the same as what the original Mulan was. And
I saw Legends of the Ten Ring, Shang-Chi, and that did it for me. That's good.
I'm good enough with that. Yeah, that was a great movie. Well, it was a good movie. All right, so that's Mulan. We're coming up on wrapping up the Renaissance with Tarzan. Released in June of '99, directed by Kevin Lima and Chris Buck, based on Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs, starring Tony Goldwyn as Tarzan, Minnie Driver as Jane, Glenn Close as Kala, Lance Henriksen as Kerchak, Rosie O'Donnell as Turk, and Wayne Knight as Tantor. Earned $448 million and an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes.
89?
89.
Oh, you know that my kids love this movie.
I do too.
Ugh.
Really?
You know, I think
is it because he's shirtless the whole time? It's uncomfortable.
It's that his waist is so small. It hurts my feeling. No, I liked. So when I think about Tarzan, I don't, for whatever reason, I think about like just the whole jungle thing. I saw the Jungle Book, and I know it's different. I know it's different. It's a whole different storyline and stuff. But at the same
It's a
time,
different continent, man.
I know. I that was something I enjoyed. And when you had like, then there was also the Tarzan 80s movie where he was like Tarzan in New York or something like that, and it was like this movie, an 80s movie. See, I those kind of things like come to the back of my mind. I don't know why it didn't land for me. Maybe I don't know. So 99.
Was it the Phil Collins soundtrack? Do you not have two ears and a heart?
Oh, I like Phil Collins. That was a great song.
It's the whole soundtrack, son.
Oh, well, what's the song I'm thinking about that I always remember?
You'll Be in My Heart.
Yeah,
that was the big one. That was the one that got nominated for the Academy Award.
Yeah. What were the other ones?
If it won or not. Son of Man, I thought was a good song.
But you know,
Two Worlds. Kind of
boring. Like just the plot and the
Tarzan boring? Are you kidding me?
I don't know. It's just you had that guy.
When Clayton dies at the end, the way he dies, again, surprised this didn't get a PG rating, because I mean he falls through those vines and gets hanged. And you only see a silhouette, so I guess that's how they got away with it. Yeah. But good gosh, that's a violent death. I thought it was great, and the way they animated Tarzan going through the trees, it's a little ridiculous, but like the way that they moved him through, like he's surfing through the trees and on the branches. You know, they modeled him after Tony Hawk, the skateboarder.
Yeah.
So it was really neat to see the animation, how it had come along. I mean, in my opinion, I felt like, you know, coming to the end of this Disney Renaissance period, they ended on a high note, and then you get into the post-Renaissance, and there's still a couple of good movies that are coming, you know, in the 2000s, but then it gets dark again. Well, not dark necessarily in content, but it's like just
decrescendo.
Yeah, it's not as good. So
well, maybe I just didn't see it at the right time or whatever. Maybe I'll revisit, because my kids really like that movie a lot.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. I love the animation. I love the just the story of like, I know it's so, again, it's I'm being hypocritical because I said I didn't like Hercules for the reason that it's not, you know, in line with the stories that I know from Greek mythology.
Right.
And here we have Tarzan, which I'm sure is about as far from the Edgar Rice Burroughs story as they can possibly get. But I do love that the interaction between Tarzan and Jane, and him learning about human culture and more about who he could be as a human being, instead of being this wild ape person who was raised by gorillas. I don't know. I love it. I think it's great. And again, the Phil Collins soundtrack is
there you go.
So good.
It's good.
It's an underrated classic.
It's funny to me that it would be another 10 or 11 years or something until Tangled comes out. And all the movies within, I think, I've always felt were subpar. You know, even with the Renaissance beyond this movie, I know we're not talking a whole bunch about it, but was there anything that came before Tangled that you really was like, now that was a good movie?
Atlantis
and
Treasure Planet, I thought were both very good.
No, those were fun.
But then, and I think those are the next two that come out sequentially. But then after that, because you get stuff like Home on the Range, Chicken
Right.
Little,
Right.
Meet the Robinsons,
Right.
which was kind of funny, but it wasn't great. I did
Right.
think Princess and the Frog was all right.
Yeah, that was okay. They're
But
just
yeah,
really
until
there
you get to
wasn't a
Tangled,
lot.
it's Tangled, I think, kind of it ushers in a new, I don't know if I'd call it a new renaissance, but this modern age that that Disney is in. It's pretty good.
Right, because then after that you had Tangled. I'd say then next of
You got
value
Wreck-It
was
Ralph.
Brave. Oh yeah.
Brave is Pixar.
Oh, Brave was Pixar. I
Yeah.
keep forgetting because those movies, because now the studios are all one, right?
No.
Who did
I mean,
somebody
Disney
buy
owns
one out?
Pixar,
That's what I mean. They bought them out.
but it's a separate studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If we're gonna talk Pixar movies, that is
Maybe that should be a whole thing, for us to do
that's
sometime.
that could be 2 episodes, to be honest, because they've got so many movies.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on the Renaissance? I don't think we've got time for trivia this week. We've gone way over our usual time.
No, that's good. No, it was fun to talk about. So
Yeah, these are
if
great
anybody's
movies.
listened and stayed on with us, please feel free to share your thoughts on Disney Renaissance movies, your favorite
Absolutely.
movies, favorite songs.
If there are any you've missed, get Disney Plus, because they're all there.
Yeah.
And they're all worth at least one rewatch. All right. Again, like Landon said, we love to hear what you have to say about these movies. Your opinions matter to us. Join the conversation. If you like what you're hearing, tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe, leave some comments, do all that fun stuff. Hit the notification bell. And we will be back again next week with another brand new episode of the Show. I have been Aaron, and he has been
Landon.
That's right. Have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.